Nestled on the outskirts of a bustling city, Maplewood Heights is a picturesque suburban community that embodies a blend of tranquility and tradition. The tree-lined streets are adorned with charming houses, each meticulously maintained to reflect the pride of their owners. Families stroll through the neighborhood, children play in front yards, and neighbors exchange warm greetings as they pass by. It seems like the perfect place to raise a family or enjoy a peaceful retirement. At the heart of this idyllic setting lies the Homeowners Association, HOA, an organization tasked with preserving the character of Maplewood Heights. The HOA enforces a range of regulations, from landscaping rules to guidelines on exterior paint colors, all aimed at maintaining property values and promoting harmony among residents. While many appreciate the structure it provides, others view it as an overreach of authority, leading to tension within the community. The HOA board is composed of longtime residents who take their responsibilities seriously. They hold monthly meetings where matters ranging from maintenance fees to neighborhood events are discussed. Some residents praise this diligence, confident that their investment in property is protected by strict adherence to rules. However, dissenters often grumble about what they perceive as micromanagement, complaining that their freedom to express individuality is stifled. Despite these underlying tensions, there was an unspoken agreement among residents: they valued order enough to overlook minor grievances. That is until one fateful day when a line was drawn in the sand, a blockade that would turn neighbor against neighbor and reveal deeper truths about authority and power dynamics within this seemingly serene community. As I prepared for my routine drive out of the neighborhood that morning, little did I know that my life would soon intertwine with the very essence of Maplewood Heights and its governing body in ways I never could have imagined. It was a typical Thursday morning when the tranquility of Maplewood Heights was shattered. As I made my way to the entrance of our neighborhood, expecting nothing out of the ordinary, I was greeted with an unimaginable sight. Two massive military tanks were positioned at the gates, their formidable presence dwarfing the surrounding landscape and casting long shadows over the pristine pavement. The sun glinted off their metallic surfaces, creating an unsettling contrast against the peaceful backdrop of our community. A wave of confusion swept through the residents. Cars slowed to a crawl as drivers gaped at the armored vehicles, unsure whether to proceed or turn back. Those who were out jogging stopped mid-stride, and I could see parents pulling their children closer, shielding them from this bizarre spectacle. Murmurs filled the air, a chorus of disbelief as neighbors gathered near the blockade, speculating on what this could mean. As I parked my car and stepped outside, I joined a growing crowd of onlookers who stood frozen in a mix of astonishment and anxiety. "Is this some sort of joke?" someone scoffed, while another voiced their fear about safety. The tank seemed to symbolize an aggressive show of force that contradicted everything we held dear about our peaceful neighborhood. Minutes felt like hours as we waited for answers. A few residents attempted to approach the tanks but were turned away by stern-faced soldiers who stood guard. It was beginning to feel surreal. How did we go from sipping coffee on our porches to facing military machinery at our front door? A sense of unease settled over us, and whispers began to circulate about potential HOA involvement or governmental oversight. Just then, a figure stepped forward from the gathering crowd. It was Mr. Henderson, a longtime board member of the HOA. He cleared his throat, ready to address our questions but clearly struggling to maintain his composure amid the chaos unfolding before us. What could possibly justify this unprecedented confrontation? The answer hung in the air like a storm cloud waiting to break. As I stood among my bewildered neighbors, I couldn't help but reflect on my own background and how it shaped my perspective on authority in conflict. Growing up in a military family, I was raised with the values of discipline, honor, and loyalty. My father, a lieutenant general in the Army, instilled in me a deep respect for service and the sacrifices made for our country. The stories he shared around the dinner table painted vivid pictures of bravery and duty, reinforcing the belief that standing up against injustice was not just necessary but honorable. Our family had moved around frequently due to my father's assignments, which taught me adaptability and resilience from an early age. Each new base brought unique challenges, but it also brought opportunities to meet diverse people and learn about their experiences. This upbringing fostered a strong sense of community within me, one where everyone looked out for one another, much like the close-knit environment of Maplewood Heights. In college, I pursued a degree in political science, drawn to the complexities of governance and civic engagement. It was during this time that I learned about the delicate balance between authority and individual rights, a lesson that would prove invaluable as tensions within my neighborhood escalated. My father's military career often served as a backdrop for discussions on leadership and accountability. He emphasized that true leaders listen to their constituents. Now, facing an unexpected crisis at home, I felt compelled to act. The sight of tanks, a symbol of power, at our peaceful neighborhood entrance felt like an affront not just to me but to everything my father had taught me. I realized that standing up for our community's values would require courage, determination, and perhaps even invoking my family legacy in confronting this bizarre situation head-on. The unexpected appearance of tanks at the entrance to Maplewood Heights sent shockwaves through the community. As the initial confusion began to settle, reactions among my neighbors varied widely, revealing a spectrum of emotions and opinions about what had transpired. Some residents were clearly frightened. A couple of mothers clutched their children tightly, their faces etched with worry as they whispered fears about safety and security. "What if this is a prelude to something worse?" one woman exclaimed, her voice trembling. Others echoed her sentiments, expressing anxiety over the potential implications of military machinery parked so dramatically in our neighborhood. Conversely, there were voices of outrage. Mr. Thompson, known for his outspoken nature, surged to the forefront of the crowd, demanding answers. "This is an outrage. Who authorized this? We live in a community, not a war zone." His indignant proclamation drew enthusiastic nods from some but also left others feeling torn between support for his fervor and fear of escalating tensions further. In contrast, there were those who offered more measured reactions. Some neighbors formed small groups to discuss possibilities, weaving together theories about HOA motivations or even government testing grounds. "Maybe it's just a misunderstanding," said Emily, a local teacher known for her optimism. "Perhaps they're here for training exercises." Her attempt to find logic in the chaos offered a temporary respite from fear but did little to quell the uncertainty gripping the community. Gossip began swirling like autumn leaves in the wind, fueled by speculation and half-truths. Just moments into our impromptu gathering, varied interpretations emerged about how this blockade related to our HOA and whether it signified an internal power struggle, an idea that sparked hushed conversations filled with intrigue. As we collectively navigated these reactions, I realized that every perspective held valid concerns and insights ripe for discussion, each voice contributing its own thread to the larger narrative unfolding before us. As the tension in Maplewood Heights reached a boiling point, Mr. Henderson finally stepped forward to address the growing crowd. With a grave expression and hands clasped tightly in front of him, he attempted to clarify the HOA's reasoning behind the shocking decision to deploy tanks at our neighborhood entrance. "First and foremost, please understand this is not an act of aggression," he began, his voice steady but strained. "In recent weeks, we have seen a surge in unauthorized gatherings and protests related to some upcoming developments in our area. The HOA believes these demonstrations could threaten the tranquility of our community." Mr. Henderson paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle among us. Many residents shifted uneasily at his mention of protests, memories of heated arguments at past HOA meetings flashing through their minds. The mention of discontent among homeowners cast a new light on the tank's presence. Perhaps this was indeed an attempt to maintain order in what they perceived as escalating chaos. "We reached out for assistance from law enforcement," he continued, "and after assessing the potential risks, it was decided that showing military support would be necessary to discourage further unrest." He glanced around at the faces staring back at him, some skeptical, others nodding in approval. "But isn't this overkill?" someone from the back shouted. "Tanks? We're not in a war zone." That sentiment echoed through the crowd, amplifying outrage among those who felt trapped between their desire for safety and disdain for heavy-handed tactics. Mr. Henderson sighed, acknowledging that there were legitimate concerns among residents about the means employed for security. "I understand your frustrations, however, we believe this measure can help prevent any escalation. Our intention is to protect our homes and families." The mixed responses from fellow neighbors signaled that many were still processing this justification even as it fell short for some. What appeared to be a struggle for safety was rapidly morphing into a contentious debate about the very definition of community and how far its guardians should go to protect it. As I stood amidst the heated discussions and rising tensions, a fire ignited within me. The tanks blocking our entrance felt like an affront not only to my community but also to the values my father had instilled in me. I couldn't ignore the deep sense of responsibility that surged in this moment. I had to take action. My upbringing in a military family taught me that while authority is important, it is equally vital to question it when it threatens to undermine our collective values. With renewed determination, I reached out to various neighbors who shared my concerns. "We can't just let this stand," I said, my voice ringing with conviction. "We need a united front." Over the next few days, I organized an informal meeting at my house, inviting those willing to speak out against the HOA's measures. As we gathered around my dining table, old friends and new allies alike, the conversation flowed with passion and purpose. We discussed strategies for addressing the HOA directly, agreeing that a peaceful protest would be an effective way to express our discontent without escalating tensions further. "Let's show them the strength of our community," I proposed, echoing the lessons of resilience I'd learned from my father's stories about standing firm in challenging situations. Encouraged by their enthusiasm, we began to draft a petition calling for transparency from the HOA regarding their decision-making process. I realized we needed more than just heartfelt discussions, we needed solid actions that could resonate with our fellow residents who may still hold doubts about our cause. Fueled by memories of my father's service and legacy, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose surging through me. This wasn't simply about tanks and blockades, this was a moment of truth for Maplewood Heights, a chance to reaffirm the values of democracy and openness that should thrive in our community. In taking on this challenge, I wasn't just standing up for myself or even for those around me, I was honoring the legacy left behind by generations before me, dedicated to protecting what mattered most, home and community. Determined to uncover the truth behind the tanks at our neighborhood entrance, I embarked on an investigative journey that would take me deeper into the workings of the HOA and the local authorities. My first step was reaching out to fellow residents who had been present during the community meetings leading up to the blockade. Many recalled vague discussions about looming protests but couldn't pinpoint any specific decisions that would justify the military presence. Armed with these insights, I requested a meeting with Mr. Henderson, aiming to clarify exactly who had authorized this drastic measure. To my surprise, he agreed to sit down with me, albeit with a cautious demeanor. As we met in a local cafe, the air was thick with unspoken tension. "Mr. Henderson," I began, leaning forward slightly, "can you tell me exactly what led to this decision? Who sanctioned the tanks?" His response was evasive, revealing little beyond what he had already shared publicly. "It was a collective decision made by the board after consulting law enforcement," he stated, clearly uncomfortable with my probing. As our conversation continued, it became evident that there was more complexity to this decision than he was willing to divulge. Undeterred, I turned my attention to local authorities next. I contacted Officer Matthews from our neighborhood precinct, the very same officer who had first appeared in response to complaints about protests weeks earlier. Over coffee in his office, he recounted how the HOA had solicited police assistance but had also taken it upon themselves to escalate matters by calling in military support without prior authorization from higher-ups. "Technically," he said, "the tanks shouldn't have been deployed without proper clearance." His admission sent a shiver down my spine. It hinted at a breakdown in communication and authority that could endanger our community's peace even further. As I pieced together these revelations, I started drafting questions for our upcoming town hall meeting. Pointing fingers wouldn't suffice, we needed clarity and accountability. The narrative was unfurling before me. The tanks were not just symbols of power but indicators of deeper issues within our community's leadership. My resolve solidified. Uncovering this truth might just be key to restoring both order and trust among us. As I prepared for the upcoming town hall meeting, memories of my father's stories came flooding back, grounding me in both purpose and conviction. He often spoke of military honor, weaving tales that resonated beyond the confines of service. I recalled one particular story from his early days as a lieutenant, a moment when he faced a moral dilemma during training exercises. A fellow officer had been unfairly reprimanded for a minor infraction, and while others remained silent, my father chose to advocate for him, risking potential disciplinary action himself. Sometimes, he would tell me, doing what's right means standing alone against a tide of conformity. Those words echoed in my mind as I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by notes and papers detailing the grievances and actions taken by the HOA. The tanks symbolized an overt display of force that contradicted everything we valued about community and civil discourse. I could feel my father's spirit with me. He had always emphasized that true strength lies not just in bravery on the battlefield but in the steadfastness of character. Duty doesn't end with orders, he loved to say. It transcends ranks and regulations. It's about your responsibility to uphold justice. His lessons were not merely remnants of the past, they lived within every decision I faced now. With each word I wrote down for our petition, I imagined how proud my father would be, not just of taking action but of standing firm against perceived injustices in any form. This was more than a personal struggle, it was an extension of his legacy, a chance to reflect upon what it meant to be part of something larger than oneself. As I honed my thoughts and rehearsed arguments for the meeting ahead, I felt invigorated by this dual purpose, to honor my father's teachings while fiercely advocating for our community. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them head-on, emboldened by the values imparted through generations in my family, a legacy not only of military prowess but also of unwavering integrity and courage. Armed with the conviction to take action, I knew it was essential to escalate our concerns to higher authorities. With my father's military background and connections, I felt a responsibility to leverage those resources in our fight against the HOA's authoritarian measures. After rallying my neighbors and gaining their support, I began making phone calls, reaching out to officials who might lend an ear to our plight. My first step was contacting Captain Lawson, a retired officer who had served alongside my father. We had maintained a friendly relationship over the years, so I hoped he would be sympathetic to our situation. When I explained the details of the tank blockade and the community's distressed reactions, he listened attentively and promised to help. "I'll see what can be done," he said. "This sounds more like a civilian issue gone awry than anything remotely military." His reassurance was comforting, validating our concerns as not just hysteria. Next, I decided to reach out explicitly to local government representatives. I scheduled a meeting with Linda Marsh, an influential city council member known for her focus on community rights. During our discussion, I presented her with the petition we had gathered and detailed information about the HOA's overreach and lack of transparency. "We deserve security without fear," I argued passionately, reflecting on my father's teachings of standing up for one another. Linda took my concerns seriously and agreed to investigate further. She pledged to set up a meeting with the HOA board and promised that she would bring light to our situation at the next city council gathering. Knowing that I had influential advocates on my side bolstered my resolve. In a matter of days, there was chatter around town of potential hearings concerning the HOA's actions. The community buzzed with hope, realizing that our voices were finally being heard. With newfound momentum, I felt driven not only by my family legacy but by a shared mission to restore integrity and unity within Maplewood Heights, a mission that now had allies in high places. As I prepared for the challenges ahead, I was reminded that together, we could challenge injustices and emerge stronger as a community. The town hall meeting arrived, charged with an energy that felt both hopeful and tense. The community gathered in force, residents buzzing with anticipation as they awaited a chance to voice their concerns. My heart raced as I prepared to present our findings and advocate for the change we desperately needed. Linda Marsh, the city council member who had promised her support, took the stage first. With poise, she presented an overview of our situation, emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability from the HOA. Her powerful speech ignited applause from the audience, further fueling our determination to restore faith in our community governance. As I stood up to speak next, a wave of nerves washed over me, but I drew strength from my father's teachings. I recounted the events leading up to the blockade, the fear, confusion, and violation of our community's values represented by those tanks. This was not just about military presence, it was about trust, I declared passionately. Trust that we can resolve our issues without resorting to displays of force. The crowd erupted into supportive shouts and cheers, a clear signal that many felt as I did. Yet, it was Mr. Henderson's turn next that truly tested the atmosphere. He tried to defend the HOA's actions but was met with skepticism from several residents demanding greater accountability and change. As tensions escalated during his speech, a small group of neighbors rallied behind me, insisting on negotiations for a clear plan moving forward. It became evident that there was no going back. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding, it was a legitimate clash between authority and community needs. Finally, one of my neighbors suggested involving local media to highlight our struggle and press for change publicly. The idea resonated with many who felt empowered by this collective momentum. At that moment, it became clear that our voices were finally being heard, not just in this room but potentially throughout Maplewood Heights and beyond. We were ready to confront not only the HOA but also any forces that attempted to undermine our sense of unity and justice. This was more than about resolving an issue, it was about standing together in front of those who govern us, asserting our right to be heard and respected within our own community. As the dust settled from the town hall meeting, I found myself reflecting deeply on the complex power dynamics that had unfolded within Maplewood Heights. It became increasingly clear that titles and backgrounds could shift conversations dramatically, often dictating the level of respect one could command and the influence they wielded. The contrast between Mr. Henderson's authoritative position as an HOA board member and my own status as a community advocate highlighted how quickly perceptions could change based on one's title alone. In our society, authority often veils accountability. Those in power can become insulated by their roles, making it difficult for them to appreciate the concerns of everyday residents. Mr. Henderson's initial attempts to justify deploying tanks felt disconnected from the voices of the community, revealing a rift between decision-makers and those they were meant to serve. His standing as a board member afforded him a platform, but it was clear that this authority was met with skepticism when trust eroded under pressure. Conversely, my position lacked official clout, yet my connection to a military legacy provided me with a unique lens through which to view our situation. I realized how privilege can manifest not just in monetary terms but in the weight of one's family history and experiences. My upbringing instilled values of service and justice, leveraging them sparked a movement that empowered my neighbors, who may not have had similar connections but shared the same desire for peace and respect. Observing how collective action shifted the narrative reinforced my belief that power rests not solely in titles but also in unity. As we rallied together, our voices transcended individual identities, creating a formidable force against perceived injustices. We learned that while positions of power might dictate initial conversations, it is our collective resolve and community spirit that ultimately holds the true power to effect change. This experience revealed an undeniable truth: when individuals come together with purpose and passion, they can challenge the status quo, ensuring that all voices, regardless of title or background, are heard and valued. Maplewood Heights was transforming from a quiet suburb into a beacon of activism, emphasizing that real strength lies in our ability to confront authority while fostering accountability and inclusivity within our community. As I reflected on the tumultuous events that unfolded in Maplewood Heights, it became clear that the experience had imparted invaluable lessons to both myself and my fellow residents. First and foremost, community engagement proved to be a powerful tool for change. When individuals come together with a shared purpose, they can challenge authority and advocate for their rights effectively. The strength we demonstrated at the town hall meeting was a testament to the collective spirit of our community, one that refused to be silenced in the face of injustice. The conflict also illuminated the delicate balance between authority and individual rights. While the HOA existed to maintain order and property values, their actions highlighted how easily power can be misused when accountability is lacking. Mr. Henderson's attempts to justify the deployment of tanks revealed a disconnect between those in leadership positions and the very people they were meant to serve. This experience taught us that questioning authority is not just acceptable, it is essential for ensuring that our community remains a place where everyone's voice matters. Furthermore, I recognize the importance of perseverance in advocating for change. There were moments when doubt crept in, when it seemed easier to accept the status quo rather than fight against established norms. However, inspired by my father's legacy of integrity and honor, I realized that true courage lies in standing up for what is right, even when faced with resistance. Ultimately, this journey transformed Maplewood Heights into more than just a suburban neighborhood, it became a beacon of activism driven by unity and resilience. As we moved forward together, our experiences served as reminders that real power resides not only in titles or positions but in our unwavering commitment to justice, transparency, and community engagement. The lessons learned from this conflict would shape our future interactions, encouraging continued vigilance and fostering an environment where every member feels empowered to speak out and affect change.